Okay, I've been doing a lot of videos this morning. I was doing my video. It was going along great. And then somebody went by that was on their phone somehow. And it wanted to connect to their Wi-Fi. And it shut off my video. I've never seen it to happen before. It was a pretty good video I was doing. And then Amy got in to the video. But you're not in the video, are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, oh, you're good? You don't want to be in the video? The video was this morning, obviously a recap of yesterday, and I'll talk about that. Also talking about Ohio, the shares when they'll be up, and talking about Lexington, because it's hard to believe, but it's the 15th of September. Lexington is in exactly 14 days. Exactly 14 days. So let me start with the recap I had yesterday. This will be a little condensed because I've talked about it like 4 times now. Diosa Della Donza, I went to race her yesterday, and she was in heat pretty good. She was kicking a little bit, switching her tail a lot, very uncomfortable. Went through got her work done, and lost her shoe in the first turn. That had no, it didn't matter in the bigger scheme of things. I'll put it to you the way I put it to somebody yesterday. If the horse that won the maiden last week showed up in Delaware yesterday, I'm in the winner's circle with Diosa Della Donza. And somebody said, well, maiden's not a stake race. That was barely a stake race yesterday. They were okay horses, but they were overnight horses. And it was a stake race, and I thought she did what she could. I could tell coming to the 5/8 when I run her up into that blind switch, she felt great. I put it to Steve this way. I said she felt like King Kong locked in a monkey when I got her to the outside. She just kind of sat on me when the seam opened up and I was going to be able to slide through down on the inside, but she just didn't have any pop. And it's hard to do. When you're in heat, it's just, the horses are not great. And to make, what's that? What?
Oh, you know what it's like to be in heat?
Well, no, not really, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
So, I would just power through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Diosa Della Donza.
No opinion.
Yeah, okay. So, she was a little bit flat, but I understood why, and I think, we'll probably shut her down now. It was obviously a disappointing year for myself and my partners with Diosa Della Donza. She did take that mark at 55. She did show flashes, but she needs to grow from there, right? That has to be a foundation. We've put that bed down. Now she has to be able to grow, grow in 2026. So we'll see how that plays out. But obviously I was disappointed yesterday. Then I watched Jailbird Jogs race, and, I was really frustrated and angry. This is a filly that won her first 2 lifetime starts and then made a break on me in the final in Oak Grove. And if she doesn't make that break, I'm absolutely certain she jogs. But that's racing, right? There's nothing you can do about that. And then I felt that when we were going to Kentucky, it was time for me to maybe step aside. I'm a decent driver, but when we have a world-class horse, I just felt like we needed to do everything we could to help her become that world-class filly. And with Timmy, Tim is a world-class driver, and the fact that she didn't make a break yesterday coming off the car was a testament to how good his hands are. The issue is that with the rail, my personal belief is you shouldn't really have her on the gate. This horse in particular, if you watch, I won with her second lifetime start, I think, in a stake race from the rail. You just got to let her progressively come up into gears, right? Second, third, fourth, fifth gear, let her trot out. But when the gate was so bad yesterday, I felt I was on pins and needles coming off the car, but the gate was just walking, it seemed like. When you have the middle of the gate to the outside, you can come up into position and trot out. When you have the rail, it's almost like the wing is just stopped, and there's nothing you can do. And she is not an easy horse to get going flat-footed. So, it's just, get away 7th and then get shoved 3 deep. I've been watching races and been in races for a long time in Lexington. I don't ever remember seeing a horse 3 wide in a major stake race with a world-class driver from the half to the wire. Never in my life. I've never seen anything like that. So it makes for a tough race. And although you have those wide sweeping turns in Lexington, it just seems like they zap your energy. Last week, the horses second, third, and fourth over, first, second, and third over were all the favorites in the race, and all of them floundered. And Scott had mentioned to me the next day, he said, looking back on the card, every horse 2 wide in that turn made up no ground, and they were no good. And we weren't 2 wide, we were 3 wide. which makes it even more difficult. So a very frustrating situation with Jailbird Jog, but it's timing, it's racing. We know all about it, but it is frustrating. So there's not much you can do about it. I'm certainly not casting aspersions or blame on anybody. It was just the way the race went. But for a filly that drew 8 and 9, and we're like, come on, we just got to draw good. Okay, there you go. You have the rail. And we end up 7th. It was just very frustrating. So I get all the way to Northfield Park, and I drive Grand Slam Dio. And I knew she was short. She hasn't raced since July 29th. But her best tool is to blast her off the car and get covered up. Well, Justin didn't remove. Aaron didn't move to the front. Kurt didn't keep coming. I mean, we're up there in 29 seconds in that class. Half and 58.4. And at that point, I'm like, well, they've left me alone this long. If all I need is to have a longer shot roll up onto my wheel where I can just let her settle until the last turn. And then I don't know these horses that well. I'm first or second, I'm sure I am. But instead it was Kurt that came 3 wide, I think. And no, he came first over. And he took whatever starch we had left. He took it out of us down the backstretch, and she ended up 6th. Now, the biggest thing with Grand Slam Dio and Melisandre and Aunt Lily is those horses are going to be sold as breed mares. And what I'm left trying to figure out now is when. Harrisburg is an obvious place to go. But how much do we need in Harrisburg? Take away the fees, the shipping, the keeping them for the extra 60 days as opposed to now or 45 days or whatnot. How much is that number and how much is it today? And the reason I ask that is because we could possibly put them in the preferred sale that's coming up as broodmare prospects, all 3 of them. But I need to know what that number is and how it looks in regards to a number more today. So that's what I have to do today and something I'm looking into. Those 3 fillies are going to be sold. Harrisburg, as I said, was the obvious place to do it, but we'll see how that plays out over the next little while. Now, I finished my night with Winter Soldier. He was good. He wasn't awesome, but he was good, and he got the job done. I think that liver's a little pesky with him, right? His last start, he was much better than last night and raced much better. Now, maybe it was the track, because there was good horses in there, too, that were struggling in the mile. So maybe it was the track, maybe it wasn't, I'm not sure. But when it comes to Winter Soldier, I guess the biggest takeaway is he's got a first, a second, and a first in his first 3 starts. But now he's got that 8th win. Now he has to graduate. I suppose he can race the Nominators at 10 at the Meadows, or the Nominators at 10 at Dayton. I'm not a big fan, unless we can take 3 or 4 horses down to Dayton. It makes it hard to just ship 1 down on a Tuesday, 1 down on a Wednesday, 1 down on a Thursday. So we'll see if we can get a trailer together to go down when they start racing. Winter Soldier, maybe at the Meadows. And of course, there was always the thought of taking him to Ontario. We have a long list of horses right now that I'm thinking of sending to Ontario. Some 2-year-olds that are coming back in. JK Mega is still on the list. I'd like to see a better race from him, his next start, and then talk about moving him. Raging Hanover. Jason just came. We were talking about Raging Hanover. I'm going to go with him in a minute, see how he looks. There isn't much to discern just from jogging him on a Monday, but going a slow mile with him, changing his shoes, and then going from there is exactly what I plan on doing with Raging Hanover. You will see him, too, show up in Ontario. Spitfire Overseas is another horse that fits the Nominators of nothing. I'm thinking of taking him, sending him over to Ontario also. We are going to bring Chicago Hall, JK Victory, and Greatest Ending south of the border. So a lot of mixing going on over this week. Horses coming this way, horses going that way. I think we have a list of 6 or 7 to go to Ontario and a list of 3 to return. That is, right now, that is what I have penciled in to take place in the stable. Now, just a brief note. Obviously, today we've Xena Kemp at 120. Then I'm going down to drive Jolene Hall, Judy's Money, Aunt Lily, Freedom Hill. These are all horses that, I think have various shots. Freedom Hill, she's going to have to bring her A game and behave well today. Aunt Lily just has to bring her A game and she'll be fine. I think she's 3 or 4 to 1. Judy's Money drew the outside. She must be in a good spot, because for you to draw the 8 hole in Delaware and be 2 to 1, she's got to be in a good spot. The good thing about Judy is she'll like the 8-hole because it really does take off in Delaware, and she'll get a real good jump on them coming out of the gate, but she has to trap that first turn good, or it could be a tough day for her. Jolene Hall, the opposite, has the rail. She's picked for first or second. Got the 2-hole, sorry. She's picked for first or second, but has been good, and I think will be very, very good in Delaware today. We're going to close out the night with Greatest Ending and Memento Mori also. Now, I told everybody, I've talked about it again and again and again, how impressed I was with the sale in Ohio, how we did, right? I think that what we had pegged as storylines when you and I were talking on the way to the sale is exactly what took place. The in-ranges are ready for money, got everything. The biggest surprise I got was that we actually got a pretty good discount on a couple of down by the seasides, right? The Cowboy Horse, the filly that you picked out, Belladale, is that what you said? Belladale? Were both great purchases. That Monty Mickey colt out of the sister to Bulldog Hanover was I believe, greatly discounted. I think you and I both agreed on why the Monty Mickeys were a little discounted. Their videos didn't look super sharp and athletic. They all seemed, what's the word? They all just seemed a little clunky. That's a good word to put it. They all seemed a little bit clunky. But when you saw them at the sale, in the sale, they were all sharp and looked good and felt good. The one thing I will say about the Mickeys, most of the ones I saw paced in the field, right? They all hit the pace right away. I know that he hit his knees, so it was important to me to find a horse that was straight, wide in the chest and straight. And that's exactly what we did with Barcelona Mickey. Now on the trotting side, no, I wasn't going to overpay for an in-range. You might look, and I said this in the video yesterday, maybe we'll all look back together and say, well, Anthony, I guess we should have got that in-range. I guess we should have paid a little bit more for that ready for money. But I don't think so. I think we did some good work with Volstead, and I think we did some good work also with the What the Hills that we got. Now, they didn't just stop being good horses. These are still quality pedigrees that we picked up with those sires. And as I said before to everybody else, I don't see the dominance that was portrayed at the sale. When I see horses that go for a lot more money than they would, down by the seaside is the only one I could think of in the first year, right? Green Manalishi in Ontario, right? That's a dominant year. In Range had a great year and is having a great year. So did Ready for Money. But those people got paid dominance money, in my opinion. And I just haven't seen the sheer dominance just yet. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe when we break down the analytics at the end of the year, it will absolutely show that. But when I look at Volstead and the horses he's thrown, mainly that Hattie filly and Sugar Instead and a host of others, quality stud. We only had one I didn't like, and we had two, the Colt and the filly, and I didn't like either of them from the start. So, they could be better. They might do that, but it never came to fruition, right? These are better looking horses, the ones that we brought in, and I expect them to be good. And as I said, I'm excited. We were just talking to Jason Merriman before I started this video. I got 2 horses to train today, or one. Want to jog Raging Hanover, train Rico Tubbs a slow mile. Then I want to go with a couple of babies. We've already broke a couple of them and got them going. I want to go 230. That's the one I think is going to be rowdy, but I want to get a look at him. I know he was only a very inexpensive colt, but just his presence, the way he seemed at the sale, I really, really like that colt. And then I wanted to go, who's the other one I want to go with? You asked me about today. Who do I want to go with today?
Pacer?
Which one? The gray one?
Belladale.
Oh, Belladale, right, Belladale, right. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do today. As I said, happy with the Ohio sale. Now, we will be putting up those shares tomorrow. And then important message too, also, a lot of people asking about the buckets. The buckets are very simple. And these are for newer clients or people that maybe don't completely understand what the buckets are, or the necessity, more importantly, of the buckets. The buckets allow me to go and do my job, right? For you guys to go out there and say, yes, I'll buy into this bucket or that bucket. It allows me to know that X amount of dollars are already spoken for in the Lexington sale in particular coming up, because this is different than Ohio. A Lexington sale is going to be a bigger sale. There's going to be more money involved. And when it comes to the buckets, it allows me to say, okay, if let's say the buckets equal $500,000, right? It allows me to say, well, I have 380 of it spoken for. I know that people are going to buy shares after the sale. If we have the sale buckets 70 to 80% spoken for, I'm okay with that. The problem is to go in there blind and not know if anybody truly is standing behind you, if anybody truly does have your back. It's extremely taxing. It's extremely stressful, as you can imagine, and it makes it almost impossible for me to do the best job I can. Knowing that there is money there, knowing that we have people lined up to buy shares, it allows me to look at all the horses and say, okay, these are the ones we're buying for this one, this one, this one, this one. Everything works out perfect, just like it did in Ohio. But Lexington is not Ohio. It's a different animal altogether. And if you are out there and you're thinking of partnering with us in Lexington, please speak up when we put those buckets up this week and let it be known what you'd like to do. I guess because I know that the people that have Perfect Thought and the people that are looking for a Perfect Thought type horse are pacer people. We are going to have a high-end pacer bucket. We'll likely have a high-end trotter bucket. We'll likely have a group of trotting fillies like we did in Ohio. And then we'll likely have a main bucket, which will consist of, and it may be a main bucket and a flyer bucket. That's fair, right? The flyer bucket is much like I did in Ohio. Look for the most value I can for the nicest looking horse I can. Hip number 230 to me, it was just silly that he went for $8,000. That was a horse that I had marked as by him, right? And we talked about that. Very remedial marking system because we look at so many horses. But when I make a note to myself, hey, keep an eye on this horse, and if you can get him cheaper than this number, buy him or buy her, and it goes for a fraction of that, it's pretty hard for me not to pull a trigger on that horse. So we'll likely have a high-end pacer, a high-end trotter, a trotting fillies bucket, a main bucket, and a flyer bucket. Does that sound fair? Sounds like a good idea. So that's likely how things will shake it for Lexington. We'll have the horses from Ohio for all our Ohio clients and people that like the horses we bought. We'll have the Ohio buckets opened up, so the shares will be public tomorrow, I believe. And then directly after that on Wednesday, we will start having, or maybe Thursday, have the Lexington buckets up for everybody. And I'll start making some calls because, as I said, Lexington is a different animal. We need to have as much in place as we can moving into Lexington to allow me to do the best job I can do. Do you have anything to add, honey? How's your day going?
Fine.
Well, that's good. I am going to go in, train Rico Tubbs right now. I'm going to go jog Raging Hanover right now, and then we're going to go with Balladale. Do you want to go get her hooked up, do you think? Or help them? No, don't do it, but help them get her hooked up.
I'm not jogging her.
No, I'll go with her. It'll be fine. Anyway, but do you think you can make a video, or do you want to go and talk to somebody and pretend to make a video? I hope you guys are having a great day. We got a big day ahead of us. Zena Kemp, Jolene Hall, Judy's Money, Aunt Lily, Freedom Hill, Greatest Ending, and Memento Mori. Big day ahead of us at the stable. 7 horses coming up. But first, got to train, jog, and break. Take care.